Hello everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You've chosen a truly inspiring and complex topic, the 7 Pillars, how one leader built a nation's miracle. This allows us to delve deep into the remarkable story of Lee Kuan Yew and Singapore's transformation. I will now generate the complete voiceover script, carefully structured for a 30-minute runtime, flowing smoothly between numbered paragraphs without explicit section titles, and incorporating specific examples as requested. Following this, I will provide the corresponding image prompts, the comprehensive video description with a timeline, and the SEO-optimized tags. Welcome, fellow explorers of history and human achievement. Today, we embark on an extraordinary journey to a small island nation that defied all odds to become a beacon of prosperity and efficiency. This is the remarkable story of Singapore, and at its heart, the incredible vision and unwavering will of one man, Lee Kuan Yew. When Singapore gained independence in 1965, it was a tiny, resource-poor dot on the map, surrounded by larger, often volatile neighbors. Its future looked bleak, plagued by racial tensions, high unemployment, and a severe lack of natural resources. It was a nation born out of geopolitical divorce, abruptly separated from Malaysia, with no hinterland, no natural wealth, and a deeply divided populace. Many pundits predicted its imminent failure. Yet, within a single generation, it transformed from a third-world port city into a gleaming, first-world metropolis, renowned for its cleanliness, low crime rates, thriving economy, and excellent living standards. How did this near-miracle happen? The answer lies in what we call the 7 Pillars, the core principles and strategies implemented by its formidable founding father, Lee Kuan Yew, that laid the foundation for its unbelievable success against all predictions. The first pillar, arguably the most crucial, was visionary and unflinchingly pragmatic leadership. Lee Kuan Yew was not a conventional politician driven by short-term populism or fleeting trends. He was a strategic thinker, almost a grandmaster of geopolitics, with a long-term, often decades-long, vision for Singapore's survival and prosperity. His philosophy was intensely pragmatic: what works, works. He wasn't afraid to make tough, even unpopular, decisions if he believed they were unequivocally in the nation's best interest. His focus was always on tangible results, on building a secure and prosperous future for every Singaporean, rather than adhering rigidly to abstract ideologies. For example, when Singapore was abruptly ejected from Malaysia, facing economic isolation, Lee Kuan Yew famously broke down in tears on television. But within hours, he pivoted, declaring that Singapore would not just survive, but thrive, forging its own path. This meant actively embracing globalization when many developing nations were still wary, turning Singapore's geographical vulnerability into a strength by making it an indispensable hub for global trade and finance. His pragmatism extended to every facet of governance. He recognized Singapore's unique vulnerabilities: a small population, no natural resources, and surrounded by larger, potentially hostile neighbors. This informed his decisions to prioritize stability, security, and economic growth above all else. He studied successful models from around the world, adapting elements from diverse political and economic systems without dogmatism. For instance, he looked to the British civil service for its integrity, to Japanese management for its efficiency, and to Swiss neutrality for its foreign policy. He built strong institutions and meticulously planned for the long term, often laying out plans for infrastructure or economic diversification that would only bear fruit decades later. This foresight allowed Singapore to anticipate global shifts, like the rise of technology and biotech, and position itself to capitalize on them, a testament to his uncanny ability to see far into the future, far beyond the next election cycle. Underpinning this vision was the second pillar, meritocracy and an uncompromising war against corruption. Lee Kuan Yew understood that for a small, vulnerable nation dependent entirely on human talent, an honest and highly competent government was non-negotiable. He famously stated, "Even from my sickbed, even if you are going to lower me into the grave and I feel that something is going wrong, I will get up." This fierce commitment to integrity permeated his administration. He built a system where talent was rigorously identified, recruited, and rewarded regardless of race, religion, or social background. The brightest minds were channeled into public service, and crucially, they were compensated competitively with the private sector to remove the temptation of corruption. This was a radical idea for a developing nation where corruption was often rampant. The anti-corruption drive was relentless and uncompromising. Lee Kuan Yew empowered the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, or CPIB, an independent body with broad powers, to investigate any individual, no matter how high-ranking. There were numerous high-profile cases where ministers, senior civil servants, and even personal friends were investigated, tried, and if found guilty, jailed or dismissed. One notable example was the Housing and Development Board's chief executive, Tae Cheong-wan, who committed suicide in 1986 after being investigated for corruption, rather than facing the disgrace. This sent an unmistakable message that no one was above the law. This created an environment of trust and transparency, essential for both local citizens, who saw their government as fair, and international investors, who viewed Singapore as a safe and reliable place to do business. This ethos of incorruptibility became deeply ingrained in the national psyche and remains a core tenet of Singaporean governance today. The third pillar was a massive and sustained investment in world-class education and human capital development. Recognizing that Singapore had no natural resources, no oil, no gold, no vast agricultural lands, Lee Kuan Yew declared that the only resource Singapore has is its people. He prioritized building a robust, high-quality education system designed to equip Singaporeans with the skills needed for a modern, globalized economy. Initially, this meant addressing widespread illiteracy and fragmented education systems left over from colonial times. He pushed for English to be the common language of instruction, bridging the linguistic divides between the diverse ethnic groups, Chinese, Malay, Indian, while also providing a crucial link to global commerce and knowledge. This bilingual policy, where students learned English and their mother tongue, aimed to preserve cultural identity while ensuring global competitiveness. The investment went beyond basic literacy. The government heavily invested in technical training institutes, like the Institute of Technical Education, or IT, which provides vocational training, polytechnics, and world-class universities like the National University of Singapore, NUS, and Nanyang Technological University, NTU. The focus was always on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, subjects, preparing generations of Singaporeans for high-value jobs. Scholarships were abundant, encouraging the brightest students to pursue higher education, often abroad, with the expectation that they would return to contribute to the nation. This foresight in developing human capital proved invaluable, transforming Singaporeans into a highly skilled, adaptable, and innovative workforce, which in turn attracted top multinational corporations eager to tap into this talent pool. This continuous upgrading of skills, from manufacturing to R&D, ensures Singapore remains competitive. The fourth pillar involved an audacious and bold economic strategy, attracting multinational corporations, MNCs, and embracing global openness. While many newly independent nations pursued protectionist or socialist policies, trying to build self-sufficient economies, Lee Kuan Yew gambled on extreme openness. He actively invited foreign companies, offering attractive tax incentives, top-notch infrastructure, and a politically stable, corruption-free environment. These MNCs brought not just vital capital, but also technology, advanced management expertise, access to global markets, and crucially, jobs. Singapore positioned itself as a reliable, efficient, and corruption-free gateway to Asia. Examples of this strategy are abundant. Early on, in the 1960s and 70s, Singapore aggressively courted electronics manufacturers like Texas Instruments, which established a plant there, bringing in advanced manufacturing techniques. Later, it shifted to higher-value industries like petrochemicals, with the development of Jurong Island, a sprawling industrial complex. By the 1990s and 2000s, Singapore pivoted again, attracting pharmaceutical and biomedical sciences companies like GlaxoSmithKline and Novartis, transforming itself into a global biotech hub. Specialized agencies like the Economic Development Board, EDB, and Jurong Town Corporation, JTC, were instrumental in this strategy, providing a single point of contact for investors and developing world-class industrial parks. This bold strategy integrated Singapore deeply into the global economy, making it an indispensable part of international supply chains and financial networks, allowing it to leapfrog stages of industrial development and bring unprecedented prosperity. The fifth pillar was a unique and often controversial form of social engineering aimed at promoting harmony and order. Lee Kuan Yew faced the immense challenge of uniting a diverse population comprising ethnic Chinese, Malays, and Indians, each with their own languages, religions, and customs. The traumatic racial riots of the 1960s, particularly the 1964 racial riots, served as a stark warning of what could happen if ethnic divisions were left unaddressed. To prevent communal segregation, the government implemented groundbreaking policies, most notably the Housing and Development Board's (HDB) public housing program, which housed over 80% of the population. Crucially, HDB blocks had ethnic quotas to ensure that no single ethnic group dominated a neighborhood, forcing people from different backgrounds to live and interact side by side, fostering a sense of shared national identity. Beyond housing, the government emphasized social cohesion through shared national experiences, such as mandatory national service for all male citizens, fostering bonds across ethnic lines. The common use of English in schools and public life also served to bridge linguistic divides, while mother tongues were preserved to maintain cultural roots. Furthermore, Lee Kuan Yew's government famously emphasized social discipline and public order through strict laws and campaigns on everything from littering and spitting to chewing gum and smoking in public. While sometimes seen as overly restrictive or nanny state policies by Western standards, these measures cultivated a clean, safe, and orderly society. This appealed immensely to both citizens who valued security and cleanliness, and to international businesses seeking a reliable and predictable environment. This approach fundamentally shifted the focus from individual ethnic loyalties to a collective national identity, building a cohesive Singaporean society. The sixth pillar was an unwavering commitment to strict rule of law and firm governance. Lee Kuan Yew firmly believed that a strong, respected legal framework, backed by decisive enforcement, was absolutely essential for stability, growth, and indeed, for Singapore's very survival. He ensured that laws were clear, consistently applied, and enforced without fear or favor, regardless of a person's status or wealth. This meant a zero-tolerance policy for crime, corruption, and social disorder. Singapore became renowned globally for its low crime rates and highly effective justice system. However, this commitment to order often came at the expense of individual liberties, a frequent point of criticism from Western democracies. Laws such as the Internal Security Act, ISA, a colonial-era law allowing for detention without trial, were used against alleged communists, religious extremists, and political dissidents. Public assemblies and freedom of speech were tightly regulated. For instance, public protests are generally confined to Speaker's Corner, a designated area. Critics of the government faced libel suits or other legal challenges. Lee Kuan Yew famously argued that a young, vulnerable nation could not afford the political contention and fragmentation that might arise from unfettered civil liberties, asserting that stability and prosperity were paramount. This strict approach created a highly secure and predictable environment, almost entirely free of street crime and political instability, which became a significant draw for global businesses and talent seeking reliability, but it also shaped a more disciplined and less overtly expressive society. The final, seventh pillar, often overlooked, was adaptability and continuous self-renewal. Despite its monumental success, Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew, and the People's Action Party, PAP, that he led, never became complacent. He instilled a culture of constant re-evaluation, learning, and adaptation. When one economic model began to show limitations or global trends shifted, Singapore would swiftly pivot. For example, as manufacturing costs rose, Singapore transitioned from basic assembly lines to high-tech manufacturing, then to services, knowledge industries, and ultimately to biomedical sciences and a Smart Nation initiative. This adaptability was driven by proactive government planning and investment. Singapore continuously poured resources into research and development, fostering innovation and creating new industries. The transformation of its port and airport into world-leading logistics hubs, or its pioneering work in water security through AnyWater, recycled wastewater, and desalination plants, are prime examples of this relentless pursuit of excellence and resilience. This ethos of continuous improvement, driven from the very top, ensured that Singapore remained agile, relevant, and competitive in a rapidly changing global landscape, never resting on past laurels but always striving to stay ahead of the curve, constantly reinventing itself for the next generation. Of course, Singapore's extraordinary transformation and unique success came with its share of challenges and inevitable trade-offs. Critics from liberal democracies frequently point to the limitations on media freedom, the tight control over political opposition, and restrictions on certain individual liberties. For example, while the internet is largely uncensored, laws against defamation and contempt of court have been used against government critics. Political opposition parties, though present, have historically faced significant hurdles in gaining parliamentary seats against the dominant People's Action Party, PAP, which Lee Kuan Yew co-founded. Lee Kuan Yew himself was a strong advocate for what he termed Asian values, arguing that collective good and social harmony might take precedence over individual rights in the context of Singapore's multiracial society. He firmly believed that some degree of authoritarianism was necessary for a young, vulnerable nation to achieve stability and prosperity, especially given the tumultuous post-colonial era in Southeast Asia. This trade-off between rapid economic development, social order, and individual freedoms remains a subject of intense debate globally. While Singapore achieved unparalleled material success and a remarkably low crime rate, the cost was a society where political dissent was tightly managed, and public discourse was carefully controlled. Understanding this nuanced reality is crucial to appreciating the full, complex picture of Singapore's unique development path. Lee Kuan Yew passed away in 2015 at the age of 91, but his enduring legacy and global impact are undeniable. He transformed a small island city into a vibrant, modern nation with one of the highest GDP per capita globally. Singapore boasts a world-class infrastructure, efficient public services, high living standards, excellent healthcare, and an enviable safety record. It consistently ranks high in global indices for competitiveness, innovation, and quality of life. His methods, though sometimes controversial, have been studied by leaders from developing nations around the world seeking lessons in governance and nation building. Singapore stands as a powerful testament to the idea that determined leadership, combined with pragmatic policies and a disciplined approach, can overcome immense geographical and resource limitations. It is a city-state that built its success on intellect, integrity, and relentless efficiency. Lee Kuan Yew didn't just build a country, he cultivated a national ethos of resilience, foresight, and continuous striving. His work, while marked by the unique circumstances of Singapore, offers invaluable insights into the complexities of governance, economic development, and nation-building in the modern era. What do you think are the most important lessons from Singapore's remarkable journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this journey into the 7 pillars of Singapore's miracle inspired you, please remember to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating explorations of history, leadership, and human ingenuity. Your support helps us bring more incredible stories to life.